Good evening. It is Friday, the 12th of March, 2021. My name's Toby Lepati Mesme, and this is Friday's edition of MesmePolitics. That's right, we're back on. Coming up over the next half hour, Labour's 2021 campaign launch. See also the American Rescue Plan has finally been signed by Joe Biden, passed into law, and there's been a primetime address by the President. But first, violence against women, systemic misogyny in Britain. What is the progressive answer? What's going on? We discuss. So we are back, as per usual. Everything will be normal from next week. Weeknights, 7 PM on here for all the latest in UK and US politics from a unique leftist perspective. My name's Toby Lepati Mesme. You can get in touch throughout tonight's edition in the chat. Apologies, needed a break for a couple of days. We're back on. We've got your Friday show. And after the weekend, it's normal programming will resume. So, Boris Johnson came under concerted pressure to take action to tackle male violence and misogyny and make the UK safer for women, as the discovery of human remains in the search for Sarah Everard caused an outpouring of anger. The inquiry into the disappearance of the 33-year-old marketing executive added poignancy to the annual International Women's Day debate in the House of Commons, as dozens of female MPs told moving and angry stories of the harassment they have been subjected to. They also called for tougher action from the government when the Police, Crime and Sentencing and Courts Bill returns to the House of Commons next week. Labour MP Jess Phillips read out the names of 118 women killed by men since last year's debate. There's a lot of pushback on this from the usual suspects. This from Twitter. Grace Petrie put it out. This is, absolutely correct. And I'll read it out to you. Okay, listen, we're going to say this one more time. It's not that men are all a threat. It's that all men are a potential threat, even police officers. I have lovely brothers. They wouldn't hurt a fly. Would I follow them into an alley alone at night if I didn't know them? I would not. This is not a tough concept to understand, so I think it's being willfully misunderstood. And I agree with that. This is the reality women live with. Belle Ribeiro Abbey spoke during the International Women's Day debate in the House of Commons. Have a listen.
Women in my community have been shaken to the core by the abduction of my constituent Sarah Everard. The ongoing investigation means there is only so much we can say, but the response to the appeal in the investigation shows that Sarah was much loved, and my thoughts and prayers go out to Sarah's family, her boyfriend and her friends at this unimaginably difficult time. Sarah's disappearance has left so many women feeling unsafe. And with the theme of International Women's Day, I choose to challenge the disgusting victim shaming that we have seen since Sarah's disappearance. It should go without saying that victims of gender violence are not to blame. Sarah did nothing wrong. All she did was walk home. And it should not be luck that sees us home safely at night. It should be our fundamental right respected by all. So on Saturday, as the sun sets, I choose to challenge the reality that being a woman means I am unsafe, and I will join Lambeth councillors, Anna Burley and Jess Lay and others who will be leading a vigil for Sarah and reclaiming our streets. And as we reclaim our streets in unity, I ask all women to remember what that unity means. Earlier this week, the world watched as a biracial woman recounted her struggle with mental health and her experience of racism. We then saw how easily and vocally people berated her and refused to believe her, even other women. So I choose to challenge a feminism that is not intersectional, that all too easily forgets the impact of racism on so many women. It is wrong for those who have never faced racism to discount the experience of those who have, just like it is when men discount our experiences of sexism and harassment. Our allyship cannot be selective. Madam Deputy Speaker, in our country, 1 in 4 black women die in childbirth. I know this pain all too well. My own pregnancy nearly killed me, and my daughter did not survive. The children of black women have an 121% increased risk of being stillborn and a 50% increased risk of neonatal death. As women, we are told it's just one of those things. But staggering health inequalities and outcomes tell a different story. And like me, when you relive the experience again and again, it's not hard to find the instances where you are perceived, or if you are believed, as a black woman make all the difference. I want to pay tribute to the work of the campaign 5X More, who continue to raise awareness and call for change, and I hope this House will give members the opportunity to fully debate the issue of black maternal health. And I choose to challenge a world in which all women do not have the equality they deserve. Thank you very much.
Really powerful stuff there. There's something here from Ash Sarkar, writing in Cortado. I'm going to read this out to you because, again, I think it's really important we have actual women on this rather than, me. The reality of this programme is that I am the host, and I am a man. So when dealing with subjects like this, which I think is absolutely crucial to do, we should listen to women's experiences and views on it, much more than my own. And I'll try and ensure, to the best of my abilities, that my own views on the matters are informed by my discussions with actual real-life women. So, here is what was written. Sarah Everend just wanted to go home, and she did all the things that all of us do to keep ourselves safe. Bright clothing, main roads, a phone call to someone she knows. How many men realise the sheer amount of work women put in to avoid being hurt by them? The first thing we learn as children is that the world is conditioned by male violence, and we must labour hard if we want to live in it. A YouGov poll released this week, it found that 97% of women aged between 18 and 24 have been the victim of sexual harassment. We slip keys between our knuckles, we organise elaborate routes home so no one's in the taxi alone, we message a mate when something weird happens in case it'll be key evidence one day. We check over our shoulders when we go for a run. We keep the music in our earphones low enough to hear footsteps coming up behind. We calibrate the perfect balance between smile politely and keep walking so the stranger who catcalled us doesn't feel so rejected that he'll throw a punch or so encouraged that he'll start following us home. I wonder how many times Sarah herself had said the parting mantra familiar to women everywhere. Let me know when you're back safe. It's our way of saying, I love you and I know the world we live in. And I think that's incredibly powerful stuff, and I think it's really necessary that we have these sort of conversations on here. I want to make very clear, this is a leftist show, and I think this is as good a point as ever. We are regular critics of sort of liberal, sort of corporate identitarian politics, where we don't look at systemic injustice. We just talk about, who's at the corporate board. But this isn't liberal stuff, right? This isn't this isn't an inherently centrist sort of Hillary Clinton issue to talk about, right? And I think there's a lot of misconception on the left that because things like sexism have been wielded in bad faith as political weapons against the left before, we should just assume that this isn't a thing. No, okay, this is an absolutely vital thing for anyone on the left who wants to consider any sort of package of social justice. This isn't an identity politics sort of liberal boxed off thing. This is a real, prevalent, overwhelming injustice in society. And I think we need to get it drilled into our heads that anyone on the left who's serious about tackling injustice has to be serious about tackling violence against women. The answer is not corporate feminism, espoused by types like Hillary Clinton. That's the most prominent, high-profile example I could come to, where it's basically more women at the top of the corporate board, more diverse oppressors. More cops is also a disastrous thing because cops also harm women. Keir Starmer basically talking about we need more police on the beat off the back of this shambles is actually a bit sickening. For me, it will never be the answer, nor will corporate feminism. Corporate feminism will further an elite of women, but will leave working class women and women of colour continuing to wallow in an oppressive system. We need complete system change to tackle misogyny and sexism in society. And a top priority for any left project has to be the safeguarding of women in a society that doesn't make them feel safe. This includes, unequivocally, trans women. Who are comrades in this struggle. Consider the experience that women have. If you're a man, consider that experience. 80% of women say they've been sexually assaulted. 97% of young women. they see the world and interact with the world in an entirely different way to the way we do as men, because of what's going on. And if anyone tells me that's normal, shut up, because there's in no way in a civilized society is that normal. And be very wary of sort of branches of feminism that try and wield, the problem is immigrants, the problem is trans people, the problem is this, we need more cops, we need more deportations, we need to basically remove trans people their rights. All these things are bad faith, and these aren't. That's just this being used to shoehorn in divisive politics. Tackling the injustices that face women goes hand in hand with intersectionality and trans rights and racial justice and all the other causes, economic justice, justice for working class people. Sexism isn't just a personal failing that we need to educate ourselves on, though of course we all need to try and call this out, talk about it, and make it completely unacceptable within societal norms. However, it's embedded in a million ways that just trying better or educating yourself can't handle, right? Everything a woman faces in life is tainted and dipped in sexist undertones. And when people point that out, as I say earlier, they get accused of identitarian sort of liberal politics. This isn't that. This is core misogyny that strikes at the very heart of the body politic and society in general in Britain and the world. It is so harmful to society. It holds so many people back. And it has a body count of so many dead women constantly in its wake that we don't even really talk about, which in many ways for me is the most disgusting part of it. So solidarity with all women, off the back of International Women's Day. Obviously I have missed that. I wasn't on air on International Women's Day. But it is really a severe, I mean, you can't put into words how dire it is. And every woman facing stuff like this has my complete and total unequivocal solidarity and support, and I'll do my best to continue to learn and continue to understand more. Now, the American Rescue Plan has been signed into law. So President Biden signed the $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan Act into law yesterday, finalising an early policy victory that will send much-needed aid to millions of Americans still struggling off the back of the COVID pandemic, which is still ongoing, of course. Biden said this historic legislation is about rebuilding the backbone of this country and giving people in this nation, working people, middle-class folks, people who built the country, a fighting chance. The bill was narrowly approved by the House on Wednesday with a vote of 220 to 211, as you know, with one Democrat joining all Republicans in voting against it. It passed the Senate, again, as you know, on Saturday with a 50 to 49 vote, also along party lines. Mr. Biden signed the bill hours before delivering his first primetime national address to mark the one-year anniversary of the COVID pandemic, which has taken more than 529,000 American lives. The White House said the President and Vice President Kamala Harris will travel to Atlanta next Friday, part of what the White House is calling the Help Is Here tour, to tout the new relief bill in cities across the country. New polling for CBS shows the bill is widely popular with the public, with 3 in 4 Americans approving of its passage and two-thirds of Americans saying Joe Biden is doing a good job in his handling of the COVID pandemic. Bernie Sanders, reacting to it, says the American Rescue Plan will send $1,400 direct payments to working-class adults and their kids, cut child poverty in half, and boost unemployment payments by $300. This is just some of what's in the bill. What a difference it makes when the government is on the side of working people. Also saying, when Senate Republicans told us we cannot afford to provide $1,400 direct payments to the working class, they had no problem introducing a bill this week to repeal the estate tax, which would provide a $1.7 trillion tax break to the billionaire class. Total hypocrisy. And here's Joe Biden, snippet of Joe Biden doing that address.
Job done. Sounds like hyperbole, but I mean it. A war footing. And thank God we're making some real progress now. In my first full day in office, I outlined for you a comprehensive strategy to beat this pandemic. We've spent every day since attempting to carry it out. 2 months ago, this country didn't have nearly enough vaccine supply to vaccinate all or ever near all of the American public. But soon we will. We've been working with vaccine manufacturers, Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, to manufacture and purchase hundreds of millions of doses of these 3 safe, effective vaccines. And now, at the direction and with the assistance of my administration, Johnson & Johnson is working together with a competitor, Merck, to speed up and increase the capacity to manufacture new Johnson & Johnson vaccine, which is 1 shot. In fact, just yesterday, I announced, and I met with the CEOs of both companies, I announced our plan to buy an additional 100 million doses of Johnson & Johnson vaccines. These 2 companies, competitors, have come together for the good of the nation, and they should be applauded for it. It's truly a national effort, just like we saw during World War II. Now, because of all the work we've done, we'll have enough vaccine supply for all adults in America by the end of May. That's months ahead of schedule. And we're mobilizing thousands of vaccinators to put the vaccine in one's arm, calling active duty military, FEMA, retired doctors and nurses, administrators, and those to administer the shots. And we've been creating more places to get the shots. We've made it possible for you to get a vaccine at nearly any one of 10,000 pharmacies across the country, just like you get your flu shot. We're also working with governors and mayors in red states and blue states to set up and support nearly 600 federally supported vaccination centers that administers hundreds of thousands of shots per day.
That's the president talking to the country there. So the American Rescue Plan is big, it's bold, and it does, crucially, learn some of the lessons of 2009, when Obama's efforts fell flat, they were insufficient, there were too many compromises. There have already been too many compromises here, but some of those lessons have been learned clearly by the Democratic establishment. I keep saying this, but it's true. Now they need to wield the momentum this creates with the public, or this will, again, be Obama 2.0, except there will not be a 4th Obama term. There'll just be this 3rd Obama term, because Joe Biden doesn't have the charisma or the sort of personality that will keep him floating even when his policy agenda falls flat. It is all about the policy agenda here, entirely. This would not have been possible, something of this size, back in 2009. Of course, it was necessary, but by possible, I mean the sort of liberal elites at the top of the Democratic establishment wouldn't have accepted it. There has been a titanic shift of consensus since then for the better and against sort of old austerity logic. That can absolutely be overstated, but it also must not be understated, because it is substantial. But it does not mean, unless there's serious pressure from down on up, that anything positive will get done beyond this. Democrats must now, if they want to continue winning, they must double down and show up the Republicans as anti-populist, right? There are economically populist provisions in this. It tackles poverty, it tackles inequality, and it's got huge, overwhelming support in the public, including by Republican voters. And they need to highlight, these so-called, anti-establishment fighters are all in lockstep opposing it. And that is a good way to drive a wedge between populist elements of the Republican base and the party itself. That's absolutely necessary, and that must be part of the strategy going forward. Show up the GOP as anti-populist. I'm also concerned at the moment that Bernie Sanders is really unwilling to critique the Democratic establishment. He seems to be basically, with the odd critique here and there, towing the party line, basically, more or less. And the towing of the party line is not necessarily... I mean, he's got to be diplomatic, but it's even more diplomatic than sort of what John McDonnell has been like. And he's been really diplomatic throughout. So I think there is cause for concern there that he's just not putting up any form of fight, or that it's all well and good to have your priorities straight, but he's turned soft. However, he's still certainly the most consummate political operator in America, and he should absolutely be president right now. He's not abandoned any of his principles. He is just clearly being very, very diplomatic. So over to the UK, and Keir Starmer has launched Labour's 2021 national election campaign. This is from the Labour website. Keir Starmer launched Labour's national election campaign, declaring that a vote for Labour is a vote to support our nurses. In a speech, the Labour leader said that a vote for Labour in this year's national elections is a vote to support our nurses, to rebuild social care and to reward our key workers. Starmer will say that the choice at May's elections is between a Labour Party that will build a stronger, more secure and prosperous recovery for Britain out of the pandemic, or a Conservative Party that is cutting nurses' pay, cutting spending on the NHS and raising taxes on families. Starmer critiqued the Conservatives for having spent a decade weakening the foundations of our country and only offering the country more of the same, and he will accuse the SNP of being too busy fighting among themselves to fight for the Scottish people. The launch also included speeches from Tracy Brabin, Anas Sawar, Simon Heggin, Angela Rayner, Sadiq Khan and Welsh First Minister Mark Drakeford. Here is a bit of Keir Starmer's speech launching the campaign.
Under my leadership, and with our great candidates across the country, Labour offers a very different route to recovery. Labour is changing, and our priorities are your priorities. Securing the economy, protecting the NHS, rebuilding Britain. In these elections, a vote for Labour is a vote to support our nurses, our doctors, our NHS staff, and to reward our key workers. My mum was a nurse. My sister was a nurse. My wife works for the NHS. I know what it means to work in the NHS. When I clapped for our carers, I meant it. The Prime Minister clapped for our carers, then he slammed the door on them. Every vote in this election is a chance to show the Conservatives that the British people value our NHS and our key workers so much more than this government does.
Let's have a listen to here to Mark Drakeford, Welsh First Minister, the only big sort of national type elected Labour official. Sadiq Khan definitely outflanks him in profile, but Sadiq Khan isn't running a small country, although you could say that about London. Here is Mark Drakeford.
Make that happen.
People like Poppy, Joe, Feroz and Aleri make Wales a country I am proud to lead. It is stories like theirs that inspire me and my government every day as we chart a path together out of this pandemic, determined to use the lessons we have learnt to move Wales forward. Our vision for Wales is bold and ambitious, as it should be. And as we have seen more than ever in this past year, ours is a country that has extraordinary capacity to meet the sternest of challenges, to not just match other countries, but to show them the way. I know the months ahead will bring difficulties and there will be disappointments, but I believe more firmly than ever that Wales does not just stand ready to overcome them, but to use these challenges, to build a country that is ready to face the future with confidence, so that we can move Wales forward together.
And we'll now hear Sadiq Khan. The tagline throughout this, of course, being, it is. Hang on, it was there a second ago. Secure our economy, protect our NHS, and rebuild our country.
When Labour is in power, we get to do amazing things. The past few years have been really tough for London, but I'm proud of what we've been able to achieve. Reducing toxic air pollution by more than a third. Investing £70 million in youth services and community projects to create more opportunities for young Londoners. started to build more council homes than in any year since 1983, introduced the Hop and Bus fare, and Transport for London fares were frozen over 5 years. But we're only just getting started. On Thursday, the 6th of May, vote Labour, and together we can build an even better, greener and more equal future after the pandemic.
Okay, Sadiq Khan's the only one. Well, Sadiq Khan and Mark Drakeford are the only people that are going to enjoy any taste of electoral success anytime soon in the Labour Party. There is some serious expectation management going on at the moment. This is exciting, right? The season has kicked off, election season and all that. We love that. Didn't have it last year, but it's happening now. A bumper edition of 2021 elections, and we'll bring you all the latest on them throughout here on MesmePolitics. There's some serious expectation management going on at Labour HQ. They really are talking down their prospects, which indicates that there's always expectation management, but this is something else. You've got people like Starmer and Rayner, public facing, not saying, they say, are you going to win? Are you going to win big? And they go, they don't give a straight answer, On the eve of the 2019 election, this is what every politician does. They said to Jeremy Corbyn, are you going to win the election? Yes, of course. That's what you say. That's what all politicians say. I'm sure, William Hague, I'm sure on the eve of the election where he was crushed, he probably went, yeah, the Tories are going to win. We're going to beat Tony Blair. That's just what you say. If you're not saying that, how dire are you expecting it to be, right? Really? Dire signals are being sent. Expectation of a disastrous defeat. I don't necessarily think it'll be that bad. However, the prospects for any gains in the local elections, obviously the opposition is meant to and usually makes gains. The only thing that would indicate any big sort of Starmer mandate would be substantial big gains cutting into sort of the Tory meat. Here, the prospects for any gains look dramatically bad. They've worsened greatly over the last few months, as Labour has alienated so many branches of its core support, from young people to ethnic minorities, and all the way through to just anyone left-leaning or progressive at this point, while trying to woo people, pensioners and social conservatives, who won't vote for them anytime soon, and basically never, because there's no incentive for them to. Don't underestimate the impact that this can have on Keir Starmer's leadership, whether it goes really well or really badly. Also, don't overestimate it, because it's likely to be somewhere in the middle between those two poles, and if it is, it'll still be gridlock. No one will have altered their minds on Starmer. It'll have to be overwhelmingly good or overwhelmingly bad for Labour's result to have one of those outcomes. But again, as much as we shouldn't overestimate it, also don't underestimate it. My two favourite words today, apparently, on the show. A fantastic result for Starmer and Labour. So, of course, what they want doesn't look like they're going to get it off the crest of a vaccine unlocking wave. The Tories might even make gains. It'll be so good for them politically by then. However, a fantastic result would marginalise critics in Starmer's Labour, further alienate and discredit the left. People would say we don't need to listen to them. Look, it's going well. And whatever we think about that, the sort of machinery in the Labour Party would just plough on. A dire result, a really truly dire result, will have an impact, not in terms of Starmer's resignation, but in the sense that within the party, it will become acceptable in all factions to talk about replacing Keir Starmer. The right will have a plan, the left will have a plan, but that discussion about ousting him will begin, which would be a really dramatic point to reach in a leadership by now. The pitch from Labour seems to be quite vacuous and boneheaded, because we're saying protect the NHS secure, blah, blah, blah. It's, it's the language of focus groups, but there's no meaning there, right? People critiqued the Corbyn era for lack of sort of coherent political strategy, but what I've seen here is complete devoid of political strategy, not supporting a 10% or a 15% pay rise for NHS nurses, even though it has the overwhelming backing of all voters, including Tory voters, all demographics, all groups of voters. Not taking a stand one way or the other, alienating your core base. It really, a vacuous and boneheaded approach where we're now just saying buzzwords, and guess what? No one's listening. Do do not get me wrong, I would love it to have a Labour Party that knew what it was doing, but alas, we don't. So I'll probably be advocating a vote for the Green Party, who knows? Okay, that's it from me. We will be back on MesmePolitics for a full week of shows, weeknights, next week from 7 p.m. All the latest in UK and US politics, and between then and now, you can get in touch with me, TobyJoshua2004@gmail.com. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for joining me. And I will see you on the other side of what I hope is for you a fantastic weekend.